Hello students, good morning to you all. I welcome you to today's class. I know you are all doing fine and ready for today's class. I will employ us to get seated with your writing materials as we continue today. Today we'll be looking into an interesting topic together again, titled Cropping System. Cropping system. As you can see, different crops here. Have maize, you have beans, and so on. We are going to mention different crops in the course of this class. But before then, let's quickly look to or take up the correction to previous assignments. Correction to previous assignment. Remember last week we treated parasite, and you were asked to give examples of endoparasite. Examples of endoparasite. We were able to define parasite. We stated types of parasite, endo and ectoparasite, and we discussed the examples of endo and ectoparasite. Examples of endoparasite, we have tapeworm, roundworm, liver fluke. Examples of ectoparasite, tick, lice, flies, mites, and so on. There are many examples of endo and ectoparasite. This is just the correction to previous assignments. Looking into today's topic, cropping system. The objective is stated below. 1. Define cropping system. 2. State types of cropping system. Explain types of cropping system. Outline the advantages and disadvantages of each type. These are the stated objectives for today's class. You are expected to know this at the end of this class. Meaning of cropping system. Meaning of cropping system. Cropping system is defined as adopted method of crop and animal production. Adopted method of crop production specifically by people or farmers. Adopted method of crop production by people or by farmers. Farmers adopt different methods in crop cultivation. The method a farmer adopts differs from the method another farmer will adopt in cultivating his crop. A farmer that is cultivating maize can adopt different methods from a farmer cultivating beans. Or even when the crops are the same, different methods might be used in cultivating these crops. That is what we are looking into specifically today. Cropping system, which is simply defined as adopted method of crop and crop production by people or farmers. Types of cropping system. 1. Monocropping. 2. Mixed cropping. 3. Continuous cropping for crop rotation. We are specifically looking into these 4 types of cropping system. First one, monocropping. Mono means what? 1. Monocropping. It involves growing only one type of crop on a large piece of land. Growing only one type of crop on a large piece of land. Let's take note of that. Just one crop is grown from the word mono, meaning one. A specific crop is grown by the farmer. No other crop is grown in that same farmland, but just one particular crop is grown. Food crops can be grown, but specifically cash crops are mainly grown under monocropping. Cash crops are mainly grown like cocoa, rubber, groundnut, coffee, cotton, and so on. You have many cash crops that farmers grow. Food crops can be grown, but cash crops are mainly grown under monocropping. The farmer does not need to grow different crops on this land, but a specific crop. If the farmer is cultivating cocoa, only cocoa will be found in that piece of land. If the farmer is cultivating groundnut, only groundnut will be found in that land. If the farmer is cultivating rice, only rice will be seen as well in that farm land. Remember I said food crops can be grown, but specifically or mainly cash crops are grown. Let's take note of that. You have groundnut, you have cotton, you have rubber. This is rubber. If you have not seen a rubber tree, this is a very good example of a rubber tree. This is called rubber lattice. The fluid from rubber is what we are seeing here, known as rubber lattice. Let's take note of that. This is coffee seed, this is cotton, this is groundnut. These are the specific crops grown under monocropping. Advantages of monocropping. The farmer becomes highly specialized in the production of the particular crop. The crop the farmer is growing, the farmer becomes specialized on it because he's growing that specific crop without changing to another one. The farmer becomes highly specialized in the cultivation of that particular crop. 2. It makes room for effective use of farm labor. 3. Weed, pests, and disease can easily be recognized and controlled. It allows the control of diseases and pests. And as well, fertilizer can easily be applied under monocropping. The farmer can easily apply fertilizer under monocropping. And mechanization can easily take place. It is easy to mechanize the crop, to mechanize the farm under monocropping, because just one crop is grown. So mechanization can easily be applied. We know what farm mechanization is. The use of machines in crop cultivation. Disadvantages of monocropping. 1. The land may be exposed to erosion after harvest. If the farmer is growing food crop, immediately after harvest, the land will be exposed to erosion because there is no other crop that will be left in that farmland to prevent erosion. Let's take note of that. If specifically the farmer is growing food crop, the land can be exposed to erosion. 2. It will make the farmer to depend on other farmers for food crops which he does not produce. The farmer may be dependent on other farmers because he's growing just a specific crop. A farmer that is growing only rubber might as well need rice. So the farmer growing rubber then will depend on other farmers for rice, for cassava, for maize, for wheat, for millet, and other food crops because he's specifically growing rubber or cocoa. So the farmer then will be dependent on other farmers for food crops specifically. If there is outbreak of disease, the farmer may suffer loss. Specifically, the farmer definitely will suffer loss if there is outbreak of disease. If disease or pest affect the crops planted by the farmer, definitely the farmer will suffer loss because he has no other crop to fall back on. Take your mind back if you can as well or still remember mixed farming or mixed cropping. Okay, let's take out mixed farming, whereby if there is crop failure, the farmer then can fall back on the animals because the farmer is rearing animal and as well cultivating crop. But under monocropping, when there is outbreak of disease or there is failure in the plants to have good yield, the farmer then will suffer loss because he has no place to fall back on. Mixed cropping. Let's take up mixed cropping. It's a practice whereby more than one type of crop, especially food crops, are planted on a plot of land at the same time. More than one type of crop. Different crops are planted under mixed farming. Different crops are planted under mixed farming. For example, we have yam, rice, cassava, maize, groundnut, cowpea, tomato, vegetable. Different crops are planted under mixed cropping on the same farmland. The farmer does not need to cultivate on another land, planting different on another crop. If it's planting maize in that particular plot A, rice can be in that same plot A, beans can be in plot A, yam can be in plot A. Millet can be in plot A, wheat can be in plot A. Different crops are planted under mixed cropping, unlike monocropping where you have a specific crop that is grown. Mixed cropping can be practiced in two ways. One, we have what we call intercropping. Interplanting. Under interplanting is a system whereby two crops are planted at different dates. Two crops are planted at different dates, and the crop planted first is harvested first, and the second one is harvested later. That is interplanting. A farmer cultivating two crops on a piece of land, the first one planted then will be harvested first. For example, maize can be interplanted with yam. The maize is planted first and harvested first, while yam is left to be harvested or will later be harvested. That is interplanting. Then we have two, intercropping. Secondly, intercropping. Under intercropping, as where two crops may be cultivated, the first one planted will be harvested later, is lastly harvested. The crop planted first is harvested last, and the crop planted last is harvested first under intercropping. Take note of the two types of mixed cropping, interplanting and intercropping. This is just to show you a picture of crops that can be grown under mixed cropping. You have maize, beans, rice, yam, different tomato, and so on. Advantages of mixed cropping. The system reduces the incidence of pests and diseases. 2, there is insurance against crop failure. This is very important under mixed cropping. There is insurance against crop failure. When one crop could not produce well, another one definitely will produce. The farmer will fall back to the one that produced better. A farmer that is cultivating yam and cassava, if yam is unable to produce well, then cassava will produce. Then the farmer will fall back on the one that produced well. If the farmer is cultivating 3 to 4 crops, all the 4 crops cannot fail in that particular year. There will still be one that is able to meet up with the farmer requirements that the farmer can definitely rely on. Unlike monocropping that the farmer has no place to depend on because he's cultivating just one crop. Disadvantages of mixed cropping. 1, it is difficult to mechanize the farm. Remember, in monocropping, it is very easy to mechanize the farm because just one crop is grown. But under mixed cropping, it is difficult to mechanize the farm. 2, the crops compete with one another for water, soil, nutrients, and sunlight. The crops definitely will compete with one another for water, soil, nutrients, and sunlight, because there are many crops grown on the same land. Because there are many crops grown on the same land, there will be competition among the crops in absorbing nutrients, water, and sunlight. Continuous cropping. This is another cropping system. Before we continue, pick up your pen quickly and write out 5 crops grown under mixed cropping. 5 crops that can be grown under mixed cropping. Alright, we have an example of it there. Maize can be grown, beans can be grown, tomato, yam, rice, wheat, millet, and so on. Different crops can be grown under mixed cropping. I believe we are following. Continuous cropping is a practice whereby the same or mixture of crops are grown in successive seasons on a piece of land. Continuous cropping. Growing the same crop on a piece of land year after year. It is many practices where you have dense population, where you have high population, where people are much, of which there is no other land to move to, unlike shifting cultivation where you practice where population is low. Continuous cropping is usually practiced where you have high population. People have no land to shift to, so they continue working or cultivating on that piece of land which is available for them. The system usually leads to loss of soil nutrient because the land is being cultivated year after year. When the farmer harvests the crop, he decides to cultivate that particular year, he cultivates on that same land. And annual crops are usually grown. Take note, annual crops are usually grown under continuous cropping because the farmer needs to harvest the crop and continue cultivating on it. Advantages of continuous cropping. Advantages of continuous cropping. 1. It saves time, energy, money, as new farmland is not cleared every year. Yes, new farmland is not cleared every year. That particular land that the farmer cultivated on is what the farmer as well is using. So it does not require the farmer clearing the farmland so much, spending money in clearing the farmland. So energy is saved, money is saved as well. Energy for clearing even time for clearing the land, energy in clearing the land, money required is not spent much in clearing the land. So the farmer continue using that particular land year after year. It saves land. It saves land. Instead of moving to another land, the farmer make use of that particular land that has been used before. Disadvantages of continuous cropping. Disadvantages of continuous cropping. 1. The soil is often exposed to erosion. The soil is often exposed to erosion. 2. Soil nutrients are quickly depleted. It leads to a drastic reduction or drastic loss of soil nutrient. Let's take note of that. This is the most effect of continuous cropping. It leads to reduction or total loss of soil nutrient. The farmer will need to be applying fertilizer for the crops to produce again, to have good yield. So drastic loss of soil nutrient is experienced under continuous cropping. Let's take note of that. It encourages the build-up of insects, pests, and diseases, and therefore causes more damages with time. As time goes on, pests and diseases can affect the crops because the land is no longer fertile. Let's take note of that. The crops as well can lead to failure. Failure if the crops are attacked by disease. When the crops are attacked by disease, it can lead to crop failure. And as well, the yield will be low as time goes on because the land has lost its soil nutrient. The last one is crop rotation. Crop rotation is a cropping system in which different crops are planted on a piece of land such that the crops follow themselves in a definite circle or order. The crops follow themselves in a definite circle or order. That is crop rotation. This is a very good example of crop rotation table. We have principles of crop rotation. Principles of crop rotation. 1. Deep-rooted crops should not follow each other. There are crops referred to as deep-rooted crops because these deep-rooted crops will absorb nutrients directly from the soil. So it is advisable for shallow-rooted crops to be planted alongside with deep-rooted crops. Deep-rooted crops should follow shallow-rooted crops, not deep-rooted crops with deep-rooted crops. In practicing crop rotation, the farmer should endeavor to plant deep-rooted crops alongside with shallow-rooted crops, not deep-rooted crop with deep-rooted crop. Let's take note of that because deep-rooted crop, they are crops that can easily absorb nutrients. Then crops likely to be affected by same insects, pests, and diseases should not follow each other. There are some crops that a particular disease can affect both at the same time. So if such crops are planted in the same farmland under rotation, it can lead to damage or crop failure. Then closely related crops should not follow each other. Closely related crops should not follow each other, e.g. maize and rice. Maize and rice should not follow each other. Closely related crops should not follow each other. You have cereal crops should not follow each other. When you are planting cereal, follow alongside with leguminous crops. So it's planted that way. There should be short period of fallow during which cover crops can be planted. You allow the farmland to have a fallow period that you can plant cover crops that will prevent erosion and as well evaporation from the soil. These are the principles of crop rotation. Crops that can absorb nutrients easily should not be planted together. That is the first one. Deep-rooted crops should follow shallow-rooted crops. Deep-rooted crops cannot be planted together. Advantages of crop rotation. 1. It facilitates efficient and economic use of land from year to year. Economic use of land. The land thereafter is being managed, just like continuous cropping. The land is being managed. The legumes also enrich the soil by adding nitrogen. The legumes enrich the soil. 3. It helps to check erosion since the soil is not exposed. Then 4. The planting of crops with different feeding habits reduces soil depletion. If you want to maintain the soil fertility under crop rotation, you plant crops with different feeding habits or with different nutrient absorbing rate. Crops absorb nutrients differently. Deep-rooted crops absorb nutrients more than shallow-rooted crops. So in practicing crop rotation, a farmer should follow shallow-rooted crops alongside with deep-rooted crops. So one of the advantages is that planting of crops with different feeding habits like deep-rooted crops and shallow-rooted crops reduces soil depletion or reduces the depletion of the soil nutrient, the loss of soil nutrient. Disadvantages of crop rotation. It may lead to low yield if the rotation is not properly planned. If a farmer did not plan the rotation, if the farmer is planting deep-rooted crop with deep-rooted crop, then it may lead to low yield. Let's take note of that. 2. It may be expensive, especially the purchase of fertilizer. Since the farmer wants to enrich the soil, the farmer then will include or thereafter buy fertilizer to enrich the soil. Let's take up the reference book for this topic. We have come to the end of today's class, and I will employ us to read up more on crop rotation specifically. Read up crop rotation, read up the entire topic, cropping system, and read up crop rotation for better understanding. Study the table and see how the crops are planted. Plot 1, plot 2, plot 3, plot 4, plot 5. This is a very good example of crop rotation table. Okay, we have come to the end of today's topic. The reference book includes Agricultural Science for JSS2 by S. Omosekeji and Essentials of Agricultural Science for SS by Ns. Chukwudi Ani. Assignments. Take up this assignment in a tabular form. Show how crop rotation is practiced within 3 years using 4 different crops. You are using 4 crops in planning for rotation in a tabular form. You can study up the table given to you and use it in planning a crop rotation table. How a farmer will plant crop. Remember, shallow-rooted crops are planted alongside with deep-rooted crops. Then send your response to the email below, vera.okenye@greenlandhall.org. Thank you for being part of this class. Vera Okenye is my name. Thank you.